Okay, the mission for probably the next couple days, unless things really go fast, is to get these tanks protected from the sun. Sunlight shining through the clear tanks will cause the algae to grow, and that was a problem last year. So I've always had the IBC partially wrapped, but that tarp I'm finding little bits of that tarp all over the ranch. Everybody's like, oh, don't buy a clear tank. I'm like, to me, I like the fact that I can look from, the opposite end of the property practically and see that I've got 1,000 gallons of water. That just makes me feel better. One option is to paint them. One of the subscribers, Houston Firefox, sent me 10 cans of spray paint made for plastic, the really nice stuff. And I'm like, oh. Like if I get into building a greenhouse, I would love to have these tanks clear and I could put them in a corner where they wouldn't get sun shining on them. It doesn't bother me that they're clear, right? And if I paint them, then I'm like, well, you're stuck. You can't really unpaint them. I'm going to build a box around the tank with OSB. I agree with everybody, you don't want sun shining on your tank. It hasn't been nearly the problem a lot of people think. And part of that is because I'm adding some chlorine. I've got some swimming pool chlorine pucks, and I'll soak those in there once in a while. And that seems to help. You'll see if you get any algae buildup, you drop the chlorine in there for a few days and you just see all the algae fall to the bottom. I just blew the continuity on that shot, dang it. Okay, something I had actually forgotten about is the area around the IBC, the one in the foreground, is depressed. I dug it down also, I forgot about that. When I was bringing water from town, I was just letting it run by gravity. So as long as the truck tank was above this tank, it would run just fine. So I thought about it, I'm like, well, why not just dig this tank down a little lower? That should help out. And it did, so that worked out pretty good. I've filled in some of the ground around the tank. So I'm going to make the sides out of OSB 32 inches high. The OSB is in the truck already, so it makes sense to cut it there, work out of the truck because that is flat. And then I can assemble it in the truck where it's flat and then bring it over and drop it in. Let's do some cuts. This saw is still one of the best things I got. All right, that's that. So 32-inch sides. All right, workbench by itself is too high by a few meters, but not a lot. Actually could work, I think. And it won't jam. So now it's a little longer and pretty straight. That'll be my cut guide. Check this out on your own saw. The thin side of the framing square is the same thickness of a 2x4, which is 1.5 inches thick. The edge of the saw foot is that same size. You can use that to set a cutting guide. Make your mark, then move over 1.5 inches. Clamp your cut guide in place, then just slide the saw along the cut guide. Cool? If I remember right, the thin side matches the distance between the edge and the blade. Alright, so let's check that. Pull the guard off. Yeah, that's it. So this way, yeah, we want to be on the mark. So then we can use our framing square, get it square to the edge, butt it up against the other side. Put our clamps on here. If you're going to make a long straight cut, you might as well try to make it straight. Sanity check, nothing underneath. There we go. Alright, that worked. Ah, we're getting better. Like this. Painted edge that way. I set these guys up on edge to use for spacers. So I'm going to use shorter nails, not the big framing nails. So I'm going to nail down this way. They're 2 inches long. They're the smaller. They're not full framing nails. Because I know the painted edges are square, I'm just going to square the 2x4 to that, and that's good enough. Just bop it. That's the official word. Just bop, bop, bop. Centered. Boom. That's a symmetry. That's it. I got it. That's kind of it. Okay. And then we'll make one more like that. For this would not matter at all. It kind of looks like character or something, but oh, and this edge is all gnarled up too. Since I'm going to be screwing the other half, let's think which way I want that to be. Maybe we'll set it like that. I'm going to just stack these up one on each other, flush it to the top. Kind of checking it to make sure it didn't move. Good, that's that. Idea here. There's a good chance this is going to come apart again someday. Adding a frame on the sides, that'll give you something to screw to. definitely getting better at that part of it. So one of the things I did, I made reference marks on here. So number 2, number 3, 3, 4, 4, 1, 1. So then this will fit right into that. Okay. So the issue is I shouldn't have cut these sections in the corner out, right? I'm not sure if I'm on the mark, but this does give me something to grab on and lift it off. All right. That'll work. I've got enough that I can grab it, so I don't think I'm going to mess with the handle right now. And it's a loose fit, so I won't have any trouble getting it on and off. So I think that'll work. Done. All right, 9:36 on the 22nd of March 2020. Got up at 6:30. It takes me 3 hours to get started. That's about right. I'm on my time, I don't care. What I started with this morning, I took my framing square and I laid out, these are 8-foot studs, not the pre-cut wall ones, but these are actually 8 feet. So I made a mark on the center of this one, and I lined that up on the pipe. And then I just went corner to corner all the way around the tank, and I've got just enough of a gap. I'm doing this as basically uncut OSB, 8 feet wide, 4 feet high. You know, I'm just looking at how cheaply can I make this. All I got to do is keep the sun off the tank so that, 1, the sun will eventually break the plastic down, but 2, it causes the algae to grow. So if we can prevent that, all the better. And this is kind of what I'm going to do. I'm going to go around, berm it at least a foot up, just to block the light. That seems overly complicated, doesn't it? So the front posts are actually in their holes. 1 brace, 2 brace, just to hold it kind of in position. It's just one of those things you would not expect in the desert. There's a butterfly in the shadow. I don't know if he's going to show up or not. All kinds of bugs all over this one. This one is just thriving. And this is kind of the creek area, so it gets a little bit more water here. Kind of cool. I give this thing a kind of a bop, and it was really wobbly. Oops, I just dropped a board. That's all right. So I added top and bottom bracing, and that was easy enough to do because I had enough room to reach underneath and do it. So those are all nailed in place, and I can still take this apart by just taking out a line of screws on each end. And then same on this side, but on the opposite side, I put the brace down low enough that with the 2x4, it's flush to the top. Clever. These I'm going to screw on so that if I needed to get in, I can just take them off again. So I'm going to do 1 or 2 3-inch screws through the end, through the OSB into the stud. That'll hold it nice and solid. I know I'm not quite square. I've fussed with that for a while. I got it better, but never quite perfect. And the way I was checking it, I was measuring corner to corner, and at first I was over 3 inches off. A drop-in fit, and I'll just land it right back up to where it was, so it's within the thickness of a blade. It's nice. Yeah. So I'm just going to go bop, bop, bop and kind of hold it in place. And later on, when I decide to take this all apart, these things come out pretty easy. Now I can take the one that I cut and slide it up to that. That'll be good. Get it even. I'm going to go down off the edge a little bit. The more I thought about closing it in, the harder it was going to be to get to the handle. So